It's a long shot, but I want this character back in Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 3. When Star Trek Strange New Worlds premiered in 2022, it quickly established itself as the most refreshing Trek series in years. Returning to the franchise's episodic roots while weaving character-driven arcs, the show struck a balance between nostalgia and bold new storytelling. Captain Pike's steady leadership, Spock's inner conflict, and Una's #1's quiet resilience made the series shine. Yet beyond its core cast, Strange New Worlds has introduced several supporting characters who resonated deeply with fans, sometimes in just a single episode. And while Season 3 promises to continue expanding Trek's legacy, I find myself hoping against hope for the return of one particular character. It's a long shot, but if there's room in the narrative, I want Hemmer back. Why Hemmer matters. Bruce Horrick's Hemmer, the Ener engineer introduced in Season 1, left the series far too soon. His death in the penultimate episode, All Those Who Wander, was undeniably heroic. Hemmer sacrificed himself to stop the deadly Gorn threat from spreading to the crew, showing the quiet bravery that defined his character. It was a powerful, emotional ending, one that underscored Strange New Worlds' willingness to take risks. But Hemmer wasn't just another crew member. He represented something rare in Star Trek, a disabled character played by a disabled actor whose abilities were framed as strengths rather than limitations. Hemmer's blindness was intrinsic to his identity, but never portrayed as a weakness. His telepathic senses, sharp wit, and deep compassion for his crewmates made him indispensable. And for a character who appeared in only a handful of episodes, he left a mark. Hemmer's mentorship of Uhura, especially in Memento Mori and Children of the Comet, provided some of the show's most heartfelt moments. Their bond gave Uhura the confidence to see herself as more than a cadet, setting her on the path to becoming the legendary communications officer we know from the original series. Removing Hemmer so early felt like cutting short an arc that still had room to grow. Star Trek's history of resurrections. Now let's be clear. I don't want Strange New Worlds to undo the emotional weight of Hemmer's sacrifice. Trek has a long history of resurrecting characters, sometimes gracefully and sometimes less so. Spock's death in The Wrath of Khan and return in The Search for Spock was a triumph. On the other hand, bringing back characters in convoluted ways looking at you, mirror universe, and transporter duplicates can feel cheap if not handled carefully. But Strange New Worlds has proven itself adept at honoring canon while finding creative loopholes. After all, they've already given us multiple versions of characters like Kirk, Sibik, and T'Pring, figures we thought we knew but are now seeing in fresh lights. If the show can make us care deeply about a young James Kirk even before he takes the center seat, it can surely find a way to reintroduce Hemmer without undermining his original sacrifice. Possible ways Hemmer could return. If Season 3 wants to bring Hemmer back, there are a few routes it could take, each one consistent with Trek's traditions. 1. Flashbacks and training simulations. The most straightforward option would be to feature Hemmer in flashbacks, dream sequences, or holodeck-like training simulations or their 23rd century equivalents. Uhura, who grew so much under Hemmer's guidance, could continue to reflect on his lessons. Seeing him appear in her memories, or even as a voice guiding her during a crisis, would give Bruce Horrick a chance to reprise the role while honoring Hemmer's legacy. 2. A spiritual return. Trek has never shied away from the metaphysical. Given the Ener's telepathic abilities, it's not hard to imagine Hemmer leaving behind a kind of psychic imprint. Perhaps in a moment of dire need, Uhura or another crew member might hear Hemmer's voice, reminding them of their strength. It wouldn't be a literal resurrection, but a spiritual continuation of his presence on the ship. 3. An alternate timeline or what-if episode. One of the joys of Strange New Worlds is its willingness to experiment with genre. We've had courtroom dramas, fairy tale episodes, even full-blown musicals. An alternate timeline or what-if story where Hemmer survives would be right in line with the show's bold storytelling. This wouldn't erase his death in the prime timeline, but would allow fans and the cast to spend more time with him. 4. A twin or another Ener engineer. This option is trickier, but not impossible. The Ener are a subspecies of Andorians, and while canon says they're rare, the show could introduce another Ener character, perhaps a relative of Hemmer's, played again by Bruce Horrick. It wouldn't be Hammer, exactly, but it would allow Horik to remain part of the strange New Worlds family, continuing the important representation his casting brought to Trek. Why Hammer's return would matter? Some might argue that death in Star Trek should remain permanent more often than not. And that's true, stakes matter, and not every fallen crew member should come back. But Hammer's case feels different because of what he represented both on screen and off. Bruce Horik was the first legally blind actor to play a major recurring role in Star Trek. His casting broke barriers and expanded Trek's long tradition of inclusivity. Losing Hammer after just one season was a blow not only to fans who loved the character, but also to the progress his presence symbolized. Bringing Hammer, or Horik in some form, back would reaffirm Strange New Worlds' commitment to diverse representation. It would say that Hammer wasn't just a temporary experiment in inclusivity, but a vital part of Trek's future. And from a storytelling perspective, there's still more ground to cover. We've only scratched the surface of the inner culture. Hammer's philosophical approach to engineering, his belief in balance, harmony, and service was a refreshing counterpoint to the usual miracle worker archetype embodied by characters like Scotty or O'Brien. Trek thrives on exploring different worldviews, and Hammer offered one we rarely see. The risk and the reward. Yes, there's risk in bringing Hammer back. Mishandled, it could cheapen his sacrifice. But handled well, it could deepen our understanding of him, the inner, and the values he embodied. Consider how Star Trek Discovery used Hugh Culber after his controversial death in Season 1. Fans were outraged when he was killed off, but the writers found a way to return him that explored trauma, healing, and identity in profound ways. Culber's resurrection wasn't just fan service, it enriched the show. Hammer could be given the same treatment. His return wouldn't erase his sacrifice, but could expand its meaning. It could give Uhura, Pike, and the rest of the crew new ways to grow, reminding them and us that legacies don't end with death. A message to the writers: Strange New Worlds thrives on balancing the familiar with the unexpected. We know where these characters ultimately end up, yet the show finds fresh ways to surprise us. Bringing Hammer back, whether through memory, spirit, or alternate storytelling, would be one of those surprises. It would honor the bond he formed with Uhura, expand the inner's role in Trek lore, and give fans more of Bruce Horik's remarkable performance. It would also send a powerful message about representation, reminding audiences that inclusivity isn't a one-season experiment. So while I know it's a long shot, I'm holding out hope. Season 3 of Strange New Worlds has the potential to go anywhere, tell any kind of story. And in at least one of those stories, I want to see Hammer again, smiling that wry smile, offering quiet wisdom, and proving once more that in Star Trek, no one has ever truly gone as long as we remember them. Wow,